We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love, we adore, we are passionate about everything in college football. And if you have the same love of college football as we do here at PATC, please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your psychiatrist, your priest, your significant other. Share it across your personal social media platforms. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Welcome in. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend. In the comment section or phone calls later in the show, we have a stack show today. It's the start of Act 1 inside the Holy Smokes Theater. The name of this play is ACC Drama. It is now the premier play inside the Holy Smokes Theater. We still have the Pac-12 drama. That is still playing out, and we still have a whole lot more to go on that. We're going to be talking about that later in the show. But this show is about the ACC drama. We're starting Act 1. We didn't think we're going to start Act 1 on July 30th. We thought maybe we'd start Act 1 maybe sometime in December of this year. but we had to speed things up. We had to set the stage. Let me thank for all the people who've come in early into the show. I appreciate it. Kirk Bender is in the house. Ryan Brooks, Bruce Harris, Boomer, Thomas Kelly, Moff Prof. Hit the like button before anything. West Virginia guy is in the house. He wants the Ducks in Big 12. Cameron B, Rock Chalk, Ryan Martin, Randy Taylor. Happy Sunday. Richard L. Sunday afternoon in the Holy Smokes Theater. R. Webb, Holy Smokes early matinee. Kyle Visser's in the house asking if there's any smoke about Oregon and Washington. Randy Taylor, drama? Really? Drama? Laura Weiss, the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the house. Gregory Krug, Jesse Wilson. T-Ducks is in the house. RFR Mac, Larry Keith, Kent Woodworth. Holy smokes. Caden's dad is in the house. Stephen McNeely, 2 plays at once is a good way to pass the next 4 weeks until the games begin. Absolutely. Dallas Marquez is in the house. Thanks for coming in, Dallas. I appreciate it. Ryan Martin. Eric Field, did you say chaos? Jim Bagley, it's going to be a busy week. Derek Marie is in the house. John Grove, Luis Carlos Diaz, Nathan Campbell. Pac-12 Pilgrim, ESPN moving anyone to the SEC or the Big 12 could have legal ramifications, and the Fox is an accessory could get expensive and crazy. Larry, you bring up some good points. We're going to be speculating about most of what could potentially happen. I am beginning to question everything, and I want to explain that to you all during this show. But Larry Pilgrim brings up very good points in that comment section. Obsidian, thanks for coming on in. Ricky Hutter, holy smokes. We got a Terrapin in the house. D5 Terps, he's back in. Andrew Barchek is in the house. Wes Grover, Let Explode. Gerald Jones, Mr. Buckeyes in the house. Coach Cox, thanks again for your super chat, for your continued generosity to the show. Greg, I have a thought. Might it be plausible that Altamore and cronies like him were hired by Brett Yormark and Dever to control both sides of the narrative? I don't believe so. I don't want to use my YouTube channel to rip on anybody, but I don't believe Brett Yormark would hire those individuals. That's just my opinion. Okay, plus he doesn't need them. Okay, okay. Wes Grover, Let Explode. Okay, so, by the way, I always forget to say this, and I get hounded by the little general, the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist. Please, I have to remind you all, please go check out our merchandise store. There's a link provided in the description. Go look at it. We got some new t-shirts. We got these beautiful Cloak and Dagger mugs, all that stuff. So take a look at it. I always forget to say that, pretty much always in the live show. But go ahead and do that. I don't want to be in trouble with the little general. Take a look, see if there's anything there. We're going to be adding some more stuff as the football season begins. Okay, there's a lot of new people to this show. I understand that. We do a monologue, then we get to your comments, and then we get to your phone calls as quick as possible. A lot of people are shaking their heads, and what is this Holy Smokes Theater all about? This is where we drop information, intel into our theater. We try to do it in an informative, entertaining manner that doesn't burn our sources, that doesn't quite get too out in front of the story, but yet gives you a glimpse of what we think is going forward. Now, people are sometimes frustrated because we can't quite push the envelope enough for them. but we're giving you all that we got. It's all that we can do inside the Holy Smokes Theater. For those in the PATC community, you saw how we've handled the Pac-12 saga. The first play that we've done at the Holy Smokes Theater, we had Colorado at the center of the stage for months. You've been following along here, Peek Around the Corner. You understand that we basically 98% of the details we nailed on this story. We did take a couple of L's in the story. In fact, if I may say so, the story that we nailed, the Colorado and more that's coming here in the Pac-12 saga, we took more L's. Have you noticed that we took more L's here at Peek Around the Corner? And the little bit of details in and around that May 7th meeting in Chicago and some other information, we took more L's in nailing that story than people who said the complete opposite, who were saying that we were all lying about the information that we had, all the slings and arrows that we took. We were part of Endeavor Plot. The person out there that has been preaching to everybody, please hold these people accountable. Hold them accountable for lying and spreading disinformation that there could be any Pac-12 school that leaves the Big 12. You notice that none of them have taken one L, getting the whole story wrong, which is okay. It's okay to get the story wrong. It's okay to get something wrong. It's just how do you react afterwards. We took more L's, nailing 98% of the story. We took more L's when we were the ones that broke the USC story, when the Los Angeles Times did an article on us. We took more L's in that story than people who got it wrong. You see the trends? You gotta be, if you want to get these stories right, if you want to crack the code open, you have to have curiosity and you have to be willing to take L's while doing it, or else you're not going to get the real information in a timely fashion. I'm preaching. My preaching is over. Okay. So, that's what we do at the theater. Now, Act 1 begun today. Way earlier than we ever thought was going to happen. The first thing I'm going to do here at Peek Around the Corner this Sunday afternoon is we're going to set the stage. It's not going to be, not going to have a whole lot of details, right? This is just the first. We're just setting the stage. It's July 30th. But as we continue on in the days and weeks ahead, we're going to fill it up. We're going to give you more information. For those who are new to the channel, on December 26, 2022, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. For those in the PATC community for months, you're rolling your eyes. You say, Greg's going over this again. Because we have so many new people coming in. I want to give everybody the context. December 26, 2022, we did a live show. You can check our YouTube channel. Florida State Money Perch, a source of ours, told us a whole bunch of information on December 5th, the 12th, and we believe December 19th, or it was December 20th. We finally went with it December 26th. We advertised at Florida State Money Perch that we had information about Florida State planning to challenge the grant of rights. Then we were asked to stand down. When people found out the information that we had, we stood down for the betterment of the story and for the betterment for you all, to make sure that we got you the complete story, as it were. But on December 26th, we were able to say a few things. One of them saying that Florida State was going to come out in public with some messaging saying that they weren't happy with the ACC, saying that things could happen further down the line. And sure enough, February 24th, 2 months after December 26th, it's exactly what happened. Mike Alford, Florida State, came out and said, we need to have, ACC needs to come up with some solutions. You know the rest of the story. March 31st, we came out and we talked about more of the Florida State story. Okay, that's the context of it all. When we were told this, when we talked about this on December 26, 2022, we were told by the Florida State Money Perch, and of course we went out to people that we know, sources. Some didn't have any clue about this, some did. But the thought, the ruling theory is that Florida State, if they were going to challenge the ACC grant of rights, it was going to happen in the first quarter of 2024. That's what we said on December 26th. That's what 2022. We said it on March 31st, 2023, and we've been saying it over and over and over again since then. Let me get to some super chats. Andrew Marchak, I'm sorry, thank you for your super chat. Chances that all movement is done by the 24th season. I think it's slim, but maybe less slim than before, but I think it's slim. Thank you so much for your generosity, Andrew. I appreciate it. Crab cakes and football, Big Ten stays on hold until either Notre Dame or ACC cracks. We'll get into that in a second. Okay. So that's what, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for the donation. If you want to, so the whole ruling theory was first quarter of 2024. Now suddenly there is some true smoke about Florida State possibly challenging, declaring that they're going to challenge the ACC grant of rights way before the first quarter of 2024. We don't have it confirmed. There may be other people out there that do. We don't, but we're taking this story seriously for a couple of reasons. One is we've had people tell us, serious people tell us, the Money Perch tell us that Florida State is possibly building a war chest, that they're in these stages of final decision making of possibly pulling the trigger. You have Chris Nee of Florida 247, a serious reporter 247 who reports very conservatively. He doesn't throw just things out and see what sticks. He has been very, he hasn't been a true believer that Florida State was going to come out and challenge the ACC grant of rights, especially anytime soon. And then last week he wrote in the Florida State 247 website that now more than ever he believes that there could be something brewing. Other people share his thoughts. We do not have it confirmed. We are not reporting that it's going to happen by August 15th. And here's one more thing. We got a lot of things to say. Throughout this whole, since December 26, 2022, I have always been under the belief, and we've said this over and over again, that we're not at the beginning of the beginning. We're at about the middle of the beginning of the story. We're not even at the end of the beginning of the story. This is going to be a long story. But we have thought always that the next part of this story to drop wasn't going to be more of this, we're unhappy, we need more from the ACC, we need more unequal revenue sharing. No more, that's not going to be coming out of Florida State anymore. That's not going to be coming out of Miami of Florida. That's not going to be coming out of Clemson. That's not going to be coming out of North Carolina. The next part of the story was Florida State challenges, declaring that they're going to challenge the ACC grant of rights in the courts. But I think that we quite possibly had peek around the corner have been wrong. We might be taking the L here, because the story might be much bigger than that. August 15th. We talked about that. I don't know when we talked about it. When we talked about the possibility of Notre Dame joining the Big Ten for the 2024 season, that they would have to declare their withdrawal from the ACC by August 15th of 2023 because that's in the ACC bylaws. Well, that happens also be true for Florida State, North Carolina, and all these other ACC schools. In other words, the story that might drop, and we don't have it confirmed. So if it does, we're not going to say, ha, we got the story right, because we don't have this. We do not have this. We have smoke. If Florida State, if this happens, if they declare they're withdrawing from the ACC before August 15th, so they're going to be declaring withdrawal plus challenging the grant of rights, all at one scoop. Because that's the story that Chris Nee is sort of pointing to. That's the story that other people that I can't name names are pointing to. It's about that August 15th. They actually might declare withdrawal before August 15th so they can play in another another conference by the 2024. They would become a member of a different conference July 1st of 2024. If that happens, Florida State's all in. They're all in. The risk is instrumental. It is massive. On a massive scale. So let's think about what that would take for Florida State to do that. Okay, so we're speculating. We're not declaring, we're not reporting anything here at Peek Around the Corner. If you want to consider it an educated speculation, go ahead. If you want to consider it just dumb, go ahead. I don't blame you. But for Florida State to withdraw as a member of the ACC before August 15th, on or before August 15th, and then challenge the ACC grant of rights, massive story. But that means that they would have to have a landing spot secure. They can't be withdrawing from the ACC without knowing where they're going to go, right? So where are they going? If we're speculating here, we're pushing the envelope. If they're actually withdrawing before August 15th and challenging the ACC grant of rights, where are they going? How do they get there? Who would take them? Let me set the stage for Act 1 of the ACC drama. And then we're going to get back to Florida State particularly. We're going to focus on Florida State right now. The stage is on the edge of the stage, not in the middle of it, standing on the edge of it, is the Florida State Seminole. Is the Seminole. Florida State. Next to Florida State is the athletic director, Mike Alford. They're at the edge of the stage. And they're both looking up. They're both at the edge of the stage and they're both looking up. They're not looking at the center of the stage. They're both looking up at a balcony. And there is a gentleman in the balcony who's got black, he's standing. He's got his own suite up there in the theater. He's got black shoes on. He's got black pants on. He's got a black shirt on. He's got a black suit coat on. Everything is black except for he has a mask over his head. Half of it is gold, half of it is garnet in color. They're both looking at him. And the person in that mask is not the president of Florida State. Clemson is in row number 5. Miami of Florida is in row 15. North Carolina, North Carolina State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech are not in the building. They're across the street. They've taken that apartment that San Diego State used to have, and they've got binoculars, and they're looking at this. Remember, the auditorium has glass walls. You can kind of see in a little bit. They're looking at who goes in and who goes out of the front foyer. They have binoculars. Those 4 schools are in the apartment across the street. They're not in the front foyer. They're not out in the street. So it's Clemson in row 5, Miami, Florida in row 15, Florida State Seminole and Mike Alford at the edge of the stage. And there's a man with a mask on, golden garnet. The rest of his outfit is black. And it looks like they're waiting for a signal or a cue or something that's going up on that balcony. That's as far as we're willing to take setting the stage for Act 1. No, we don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know if Act 2 begins before or after August 15th. There's a lot that we do not know. There's some things we do not know. We do know there is smoke. We don't know if Florida State's going to pull the trigger before August 15th. We always thought it'd be the first quarter of 2024. We would put odds against it that they'd pull the trigger before the 15th. But there is some indications that, let's put it this way, serious people believe it might be possible. If you can believe that. We've set the stage for Act 1. Not a whole lot there, but I think there's enough for you all to chew on. Chris Simmons says, lots of smoke, Florida State is announcing before the 15th. Now, I have one more. I have to this next part of this monologue, and I'm not going to try to spend too much time on it, but this is only speculation. This theory of why Florida State would withdraw from the ACC on August 15th, thinking they have a place somewhere to go to. This scenario has been talked about by other people, one of which resides within a position, not a high position, not a leadership position, but somebody in a Big Ten athletic department. So this is speculation. Speculation only. We're not declaring, we're not announcing, we're not reporting, only speculation. Why would, let's just pretend, here we're pretending that Florida State is actually pulling the trigger before August 15th. How could they do that? Well, first of all, they would have to have a landing spot. And let's say the landing spot is in the Big Ten. No, we're not declaring, reporting. We have no intel other than the smoke that's real around this Florida State August 15th. We don't have all these dots to connect, but we're telling you a scenario that people have talked about before. They talked about it months ago, by the way. And so we're going to bring it up now to you. Let's say Florida State, again, We're not reporting this. Let's say Florida State believes they have a spot in the Big Ten. And they cannot, there is no way, Maria Flugar, the moderator, there's no way that Florida State could ever know, this is the part of the story. There's no way that Florida State could ever know that they could successfully challenge the grant of rights by July 1st of 2024. They know that there's no way they can be guaranteed, in fact, the odds are stacked against Florida State, that they could get a settlement with ACC, that they would win a court case. So in other words, for Florida State to declare withdrawal of the ACC, they would have to go somewhere and know that they would be somewhat taken care of. How could they be taken care of by the Big Ten? Without Florida State bringing in their media rights with them, because those media rights are owned by the ACC and ESPN owns the distribution of Florida State's home content until 2036. How is that even possible? How could Florida State know that Big Ten would take care of them for the next 6 years? Because Florida State ain't coming to the Big Ten and not get any dollars, not get any money. That would be athletic department suicide. So, how would they be taken care of? Well, somebody would grease the skids for them. Most of their entry would be paid by some other schools that are just coming in. Okay. We got to go back to the Big Ten. We've been talking about here at Peek Around the Corner that the Big Ten is interested in Washington and Oregon. It wasn't just Kevin Warren, but they had hurdles to go over to add them. We knew about this before the rest of the country learned about UCLA and USC on June 30th, 2022. We knew at Peek Around the Corner it was going to be USC +1 coming into the Big Ten. But I'm going to tell you something. The Big Ten presidents, Fox, while they're interested in Oregon and Washington, while we always believe it's not going to be just two schools west of Lincoln, the Big Ten presidents, the commissioner and Fox, they would go a whole lot farther into obtaining a Southeastern ACC university. If they had any opportunity to crack ACC down in the Southeast, they will go for it as long as they're not in legal danger. The Big Ten would not try to obtain any ACC school unless the ACC school first withdraw from the ACC. So what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is the scenario that was talked about months ago. We put it up on a shelf. We didn't talk about it, Peek Around the Corner. But if Oregon and Washington, if the Pac-12 gets cracked open again, if Arizona goes to the Big 12, we believe that Arizona has table 14 reserved. In other words, Arizona's going through dotting the I's, crossing the T, going through all that work, and there's a lot of work. We believe that Arizona is the next to go to the Big 12, and it's just the timing. This has to do with, Arizona wasn't at the same spot that Colorado was in talks and negotiations with the Big 12. Arizona has some work to do. Okay, internally, figuring things out, and we believe they're going to be the next member, the next Big 12 school. So if the Pac-12 gets cracked open by Arizona State, suddenly Washington and Oregon become, I don't want to use the word desperate, but they are willing to deal. The Big Ten presidents, while they're interested in Washington and Oregon, and they are, for them it isn't a pressing point. We've been talking about a peek around the corner 5 months from now or 5 years from now. We believe Oregon and Washington will be Big Ten members. Either way, we think it's going to happen. Big Ten president's been doing a cost-benefit analysis. Either way, whatever is best for them. Who's going to pay for it? What networks are going to pay for it? However, if the Big Ten presidents have an opportunity to crack to the Southeast to get an ACC school, they're going to be a whole lot more aggressive. So is there an opportunity for the Big Ten, for Fox Sports to do both? Oregon and Washington, and let's say a Florida State. If Florida State, and we're again speculating, we're talking about a scenario that was talked about months ago, and we might be getting there. We're not reporting this at all as something that's going to happen. We're trying to figure out why Florida State, why there is real smoke that Florida State could potentially withdraw from the ACC by August 15th. If Florida State, is there an opportunity, the presidents, the network, Fox Sports, they're willing to belly up at the bar. They are willing to do a whole lot more than if it was just Washington and Oregon. So, remember, if Florida State, we're pretending here, if we're speculating, if Florida State announced a withdrawal from the ACC and joined the Big Ten, they would not bring their media rights. They don't own them. The ACC does. When there's a home game in 2024, Florida State, Michigan at Florida State, the game will be played on the ESPN networks. If Michigan is at Florida State and is being played on the ESPN networks, the money, ESPN has the distribution license of Florida State home games still. Even if Florida State joins the Big Ten, that money goes to the ACC. That ESPN money that they get from their advertisers, that money for that Michigan at Florida State goes to the ACC coffers and then gets distributed among the ACC schools per bylaws. And per their bylaws, none of that money would go to Florida State because they are a member who withdraw from the conference. So even if Florida State goes to Big Ten, Florida State home games do have to show up somewhere on ESPN. Because ESPN, their network, their family of networks own all of ACC content. The money goes to the ACC. So how would this work? Why would the Big Ten do this? The story has always been a Florida State school without their owning their media rights brings no value to the Big Ten. We offer this up as a theory, speculation. Oregon and Washington would grease the skids for Florida State. In other words, if Purdue, Illinois, Minnesota, Maryland, Rutgers, if those presidents knew that there was an opportunity to get Florida State along with Oregon and Washington, they're going to be more willing to vote yes they're going to be more willing to wheel and deal. That's just how it is. So would the networks. So would CBS and NBC. There could also be the potential of Amazon, let's say, coming in for a Friday night game, as having the fourth pick every week. Because if you're bringing in Oregon, Washington, or Florida State, you're elevating the whole Big Ten schedule. You're bringing in 3 big brands, and you get more value for your current networks. And an Amazon streaming, they might be willing to pay $120 million for an Oregon and Washington, or $100 million. But whatever the networks would pay for an Oregon and Washington would not collect all that money. They would come in as a discount. You understand what I'm saying? So some of that money would be lobbed off and given to Florida State. Even though Florida State, the Big Ten's not making money on any Florida State home games. Florida State on the road 4 or 5 times a year in football. Is that worth $30-40 million? Florida State only road games in basketball. Is that worth $30-40 million per year for the Big Ten? Maybe not. Maybe not. But again, Oregon and Washington greasing the skids for a Florida State entry. Plus, you don't think Fox Sports would gain value in the Big Ten network? Fox Sports owns 61% of the Big Ten network. You put the Big Ten network in Tallahassee in the state of Florida at the highest level of the cable of streaming prices. That's going to make you a few million right there. Plus, you got the Big Ten network in Washington, Seattle, you got it in Oregon. The Big Ten network going into the city of Los Angeles. So Florida State for the next 6 years would get money from the Big Ten. Florida State, while battling the ACC Gore, this theory, knows that their home games would still be distributed by ESPN. All that revenue would still go to the ACC. But in this scenario, they're clear to go to the Big Ten. They're willing to take the legal risks. And the Big Ten, what risks do they have? They're not showing any Florida State home games. Not even on the Big Ten network are they showing Florida State home games. And yet they have the money. They might shell out $10 million from their own coffers. $10 million per year for 6 years. That's $60 million. The Big Ten's been giving out loans for bigger than that from Rutgers and Maryland. That is a theory that was discussed months ago, that an ACC school would slip through the back door based upon Washington and Oregon greasing the skids, or Notre Dame greasing the skids. But the Notre Dame hasn't popped yet. Let me get to these super chats. Then we're going to get to your comments. I think, John Teal, thank you so much for your super chat. Appreciate it. If the Big Ten got Florida State and X team, does the SEC take Oregon and Washington? Well, according to this theory, we're not reporting anything. According to the theory, the Oregon and Washington would be needed to grease the skids for Florida State, and Florida State would be needed to motivate the presidents and the networks to do the Oregon and Washington deal at this time. Thanks for your super chat. Tony, could the Big Ten give Florida State interest-free loans? They could, but I'm not sure Florida State would be interested in that. I think Florida State has to. They're not getting any money from the ACC in this theory. So they're going to have to be getting money from the Big Ten. And that has to do with Oregon and Washington greasing the skids. And maybe some money coming from the Big Ten themselves. I don't think it would be a loan. However, under it, this is all the crazy theory that was brought up by somebody in the Big Ten, somebody in the Big Ten building months ago. And now look where we're at. Washington and Oregon might be desperate enough to come in as a discount. Networks might be willing to pay. Some of that money finds its way to Florida State, even without Florida State home games being part of CBS, NBC, Fox, where they can showcase those games, because they won't be able to. And then that means Florida State, for the moment, is doing an end run around the grant of rights and everything that goes with it, the difficulties of it. They're going to still challenge it, but they have a home. Motivation says Florida State decides never to play home games until the ACC dissolves. They would still play home games. They would just be showing on ESPN. Thanks for the update, Godfather. I appreciate it, Bill G. Appreciate you, Super Chat. Thank you so very much. Eric Nifron, Greg, are you from Chicago? You sound like home. No, I'm not from Chicago. I'm from Minnesota. I have a weird accent, so I used to be deaf when I was young until I was about 7 years old. So I got difficulties pronouncing words. I do have cousins in Chicago, but no, I got a Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota. Always been living in Minnesota. I have some Minnesota accent, but I have some Chicago, I have some New York, I have some New Jersey. It's all mixed up. I'm all mixed up. You should hear me singing. It's even worse. So that's the stage. The stage has been set for Act 1. We've given you, it's real smoke. What we don't have, and what the people that we talk to don't have, we don't have confirmation that Florida State's actually going to do this. We don't have that. We're not reporting that. But I think we should talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. Hopefully I'm not offending people in the PATC community by talking about it, because I seem to offend people when I post public postings of Board of Regents meetings. This is smoke. Serious people are talking about it. And what we're trying to do at Peek Around the Corner is figure out, how could Florida State be so brave? And if they do this, they have to have a home. And if they have a home, how does it work? So this scenario that we went through kind of sort of answers those questions. But we don't have the answers. We don't have confirmation. But we do have intel that this smoke is being taken seriously. And there's a guy sitting in the balcony with a gold and garnet mask on. And he's looking down at his athletic director and the Seminole. So let's get to your comments, your phone calls, talk about anything in college football. We're 4 Saturdays away. Assume lawyers have been studying the grant of rights. Things that make you go, Oregon and Washington would take $50 million in a heartbeat. UNC is at the top of the wish list. Greg, I think you sound great. I appreciate it. Greg looks like he lives near Wrigley Field. I don't know how to take that. Greg, do you have a Chicago Cub hat? No, I do not. In fact, I did go to Chicago Wrigley Field in my early 20s. But I was a New York Mets fan. So I was in the left field bleachers, and a Chicago Cub fan took my hat and threw it into left field. And everybody started cheering. I didn't mind because I had a few beers in me, and I was laughing along with everybody else. So, no, never been a Cub fan at all. Okay, so Supposedly, the Florida State Seminoles have cracked the Gore code this Wednesday. They file. Now, if publicly Mike Alford, the Florida State athletic director, has said in public, he said, we have the Gore handled. It's the exit fee. Well, the exit fee probably costs about $120 million. Something like that. But he says they have the Gore handled. Does that mean the Florida State has cracked the code? Or does that mean they're doing an end run around the grant of rights and they've figured out a way to say, okay, fine, but we're still willing to leave the conference, even if you have our media rights. Is that what they mean by handling the grant of rights? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, but I don't know. And when it comes to cracking the grant of rights, does Florida State have some special little bit of communication between themselves and the ACC? Remember, when the Florida State Seminoles, when their president originally signed the dotted line for the first grant of rights, this was before the extended grant of rights that they signed to extend it from 2027 to 2036. They signed that in 2016. I'm talking about the grant of rights they signed in 2013. But Florida State was the last school to sign on the dotted line. They had to get their arms twisted by Commissioner Swofford. You remember that? So was there some communication? Was there some email? Was there something there that Florida State was promised, some considerations that they believe they haven't received? Is that what they believe, that they could go to courts and crack this thing open? Again, we do not know. But we're going to get to your phone calls. We're going to continue with your comments, talk about anything in college football, anything at all. First week games, Arizona, Big 12. Let me get the phone lines open here. 763-260-1333, 763-260-1333. Talk about anything in college football.
Call from
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping is on the line. The floor is yours, Western Civic.
Hey, good to see you, Greg. Thanks for the show. And look, we do need to get all cleaned up here before we go to the theater.
Yes.
So let's cover a couple things. First of all, and I apologize to the audience, but Greg, there's just a slight delay when you and I are communicating through the phone here, and it's just enough of a delay for a loud guy like me. Sometimes I don't hear you right away when you speak, and I apologize for that. But,
okay.
But maybe, yeah, when you speak up, maybe that first emphasis, if you make it a little louder, maybe it'll help. Anyway, but let's get to the real stuff. I'm an Oregon and a Utah alum. I went to both schools. But let's get to this betting business, because you make a good point, and I've also not been thinking clearly about the bets that were made. First of all, I want to make a shout out to Opie, because as everybody knows, I've been asking everybody to bet me that the Big Ten would have the first say about the Pac and not the Big 12. And the only person who took me up on that was Opie. And that particular bet, I think, I still have a claim on. But the one that you and I made, Greg.
I didn't make any bets. First.
No, just the Flugarian
dollars.
Oh,
yes. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. You were the house, and you had something there.
Sure.
And you said, hey, -6.5, that I believe the word you used was poached, which is the word I might object to. But in that bet, I lost. Okay, I'll give you that.
Got it.
Except for I do object to the word poach, and let me explain. And like I've said, I'm still holding on to that Instagram post from the Buckeye there. But Um, what was I? Oh, I kind of lost my train of thought here again, Greg. I apologize.
That's okay.
That the big would take it first. But, okay, I know what I'm saying. Poached. I didn't like the poaching. Because really what's going on here in this script, in the play, is the relegation of Arizona and Colorado. And it is shocking in a million different ways, despite the fact that they have, definitely the two worst records in Pac history. Colorado has the worst. Arizona has the longest and the worst. They just don't have the losing percentage Colorado did. So what we're seeing is major AAU schools getting relegated by the Disney mob, and it is something to see. And it also, remember the Southern Mountain Schools thing, it would look that the Southern Mountain Schools, the word Southern referred more to culture than geography. And I would bet today, I don't have anything new on this, but I would bet that the Southern Mountain Schools might be Utah and ASU. And of course, if you recall, I've always said that the Magnificent Seven are the SEC Seven. And of course, the thesis statement I always said is as soon as the ACC cracks, it all goes down. So anyway, what else? And what else did I say, Greg, about if the big goes west again? What did I say? Do you remember?
No, you have to remind me.
I said if the big goes west again, they will take at least 6.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Now, that may be wrong. I mean, this is what I'm thinking is wrong, and I don't think it's the mountain schools as much as it might be California and Stanford. I don't know if they're down for this new iteration of top-tier college football. What do you think of that, Greg?
What was that last part?
Cal and Stanford.
Yeah, I have no idea what's going on there. No clue whatsoever. And I've been saying that in every live show. I have no handle on what Stanford is doing or wants to do.
Well, Greg, I got some trivia. I'd like to, have you know what a shovel pass is, Greg?
Yeah, I know what a shovel pass is. Yes.
Okay, you know what that used to be called, right? It used to be called the Utah Pass.
Okay.
It was invented by Utah. And so we're just throwing stuff out here in support of one of my schools here. Name the only university to produce the #1 draft pick for both the NFL and the NBA in the same year. Go
Utah.
you. Of course. Anyway, look. The relegation jackals are out, Greg.
Yes,
and
they
what
are.
I'm hearing,
Yes.
Yeah, what I'm hearing is that the big schools aren't even safe. Are your big media rights signed yet?
I don't think the long form has been signed yet.
That's a little scary because if you listen to Clad and some other folks, the same relegation mob that just got done with Boulder has been spotted in multiple Big Ten university towns. What do you think of that?
That could happen. I don't think it's going to happen for a while yet, but I'm open to it. Realignment never sleeps. Realignment never sleeps.
Well, and thank you for covering it, Greg. Look, Opie, I'm still out there. I still think that the spirit of the bet with Opie is that the only conference that breaks the pack is the Big Ten, and I'm holding on to that.
Got it.
I think what we're seeing is a relegation. I got to give you props for. I could not believe the muscle job, and I expect we'll see it again here with Arizona, and they're not going to be happy about it either. But they got it coming. They rode the Arizona State Sun Devil coattails into the pack 50 years ago and literally never did squat with it. No Rose Bowls, nothing. Greg,
got it.
I will not log in to watch football, and annual playoff flexibility remains the key. And no war, my friend.
No war.
No war.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Immaculate.
Immaculate, can you hold a second?
I sure can.
I gotta catch up. So many kind people putting down super chats, and I'm so far behind.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't miss any. John Teal, again, thank you for your super chat. Appreciate it. You remind me of Newman from Seinfeld. Great show. Thank you, John, for your generosity. I appreciate it. Gorb, very interesting and risky potential move. Again, the scenario that was brought up months ago, not much more than speculation. Also, definitely a South Georgia accent. Thank you so much, Gorb, for your generosity to the show. I appreciate it. I hope I haven't missed anybody else. I probably did. Hold on. John Teal, I'm sorry. I did not get to the super chat earlier. I would have BU were from Wisconsin. Are you saying, John, that you thought maybe I was from Wisconsin? No way. No way do I sound like a Badger. That is one thing. You can say I look like or talk like Newman, but I do not sound like a Badger. Okay, but thanks for your super chat, John. Appreciate it. Immaculate, what's going on? The floor is yours.
Well, Godfather, this is quite the Sunday, huh?
Yes, it is.
Here we are.
A lot of cloak and dagger, my friend. Cloak and dagger.
I'm just excited that I can finally talk ACC with you. I mean,
yes.
I feel like the chains have come off. I said I wouldn't until you were ready, and I think you're ready.
Mm-hmm. Act one, baby. Starts today.
It is. It's starting quick, too, man.
Mm-hmm.
This show, they just start with the fireworks right away. But we still got a lot to talk about in the pack, too. And so those are the two main things I like to go with you as long as we got enough time.
Oh, yeah. Plenty
Feel free
of time.
to cut me off whenever.
No, plenty of time.
Going in the pack, for people who might say, why Arizona? Why Arizona? They don't have as much value maybe in perhaps football. But that's a good reason why they go number 2. And they have to go soon. Yormark wants it for basketball. And right now this is a guaranteed slot at, 31, 32 million or whatever. But if he takes someone else and he tries to sell Arizona to boxing whoever for third, does he get full price for them?
Yeah, great point. Great point.
Arizona's got to move.
Yes.
And I on Twitter, I tried to gently challenge our friend who seems to be the guy from Arizona on how ready Arizona is to go. I think that they have to be ready. And for their board of regents to have said in the past that Arizona and Arizona State aren't tied together in terms of going to the same conference, they've been preparing.
Oh, yeah, they've been preparing. No question about it. Yep.
They're prepared.
Yeah. They just weren't at where Colorado was. But yes. And
yeah,
I think they're finishing up. Let's put it that way.
And I think the reason for anyone wondering, okay, well, why? Well, here it is. Here's the big scoop that I've said this a few other places. Apologies that I couldn't be there to check out your show yesterday with Coos. I saw some of the video afterwards. Really well done. I had a prior engagement. But what folks need to realize is that in order to have a conference championship game, you have to have 10 teams as per the rules right now. Those rules were changed for the Big 12 when they lost Texas A&M and Missouri, but that requires a lot of people to vote in your favor if you want to get that lowered.
Yeah, you got to get a waiver.
Need 10 schools.
Yeah.
Yep, you gotta have it done. And are they going to help you? I don't know, but if you don't have it, there's no conference championship game, and if there's no conference championship game, that's 4 spots in next year's tournament that they cannot get to. You can't have an AQ in 2024 CFP if you don't have a conference champion. And that, I think, is tied to a conference championship game. So for people wondering the seriousness, it's that serious. And you might say, okay, well, they just grabbed San Diego State or whomever to fill the spots. Well, each one of those ads is now $34 million, not $17 million.
Yep.
If you're a Mountain West team and you see what's happened in the pack, are you ponying up that cash for a conference that may not even exist in a couple years?
Yeah, you're right. We did an episode yesterday saying how the one of the great fears of the Pac-12 has to be the inability to backfill if they lose a couple more schools.
Yeah, and top people would say, okay, well, what about SMU? Well, the same reason that Texas wouldn't go to the Pac, and the same reason that Colorado stated why they left. It's that travel time, and it's not just for football or basketball; it's for all sports. And SMU is a small university, not a large university. Yeah, they got some money, but do they really want to do that? I would say no. So that has changed things, and if you think about it in this regard, this is what's crazy about it. If Bialkov had just dealt with this and pulled the Band-Aid off a few months previously, that cost for getting schools from the Mountain West would be $17 million instead of $34 million. They could have maybe pulled this off if this would just happen sooner, but because they just kept going along with this, they put themselves into a window where they have no moves.
Yep.
So there's nothing left for these schools to do but to get out.
Yeah.
And so now, Oregon and Washington, is the Big Ten willing to speed up their play? I mean, we all agree that Washington at least is a shoo-in for the Big Ten, but I don't think they planned on it this early. Money and dealings with the network. So we'll see how that goes. But the real story is this ACC, right?
Yeah.
And I want to take you to a rabbit hole, if I may. And if you don't want to go down that rabbit hole, just say no. And
well, I just took you and about 500 people down a rabbit hole. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is a branch off of that rabbit hole.
Oh.
And been talking with someone, and there's something that I saw in a video that came out recently from a FSU guy.
Yeah.
And you talked about it with Kuz, so I'm really curious to see what you think about this. And that's the idea, and it's crazy because I have a hard time believing this is true, but if it is true, that ACC schools possibly signed their entire gore with ESPN and not the ACC.
I don't. Yeah, I heard that. I wish. I wish that there was some report, article, documentation that says that.
Here's where it supposedly came from.
Yeah.
Supposedly, the UNC AD made this statement in an interview.
I saw that interview. I think.
Did you see him say that at all?
Yeah. Yes, but I think. But I think he misspoke. That's why I want to see some documentation, somebody report on it. I think what he meant is we gave our rights to the ACC and then they gave them over to the ESPN. I think what he meant is they gave ESPN the distribution rights, the license to do our games until 2036.
Okay.
I mean, because I say that because,
just in case. Could I go down that rabbit hole just in case?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is all conjecture.
Yeah.
There's nothing to this other than just, holy crap, if this is true. If they have done that, number one, kudos to ESPN for just a long-term strategic move. Second to that, there might be some ACC administrators who sign on to this that should maybe have their capabilities checked as whether or not they can actually do their job.
Well, that's what. See, I don't know why a lot of those ACC schools would want their conference to give up their individual media rights, those schools, to ESPN. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't benefit them all. It would benefit the FSUs, the UNCs. Maybe some of these schools required it in order to sign on to this deal back in 2013, whenever it was. And if we think about it, back then, ESPN had deals with Big Ten, SEC, ACC with this. the Pac, and the Big 12. They had deals with all conferences. So really, this idea that they could have moved into any other conference with the exit fee, and at least it wouldn't have been a problem in terms of the grant of rights, that ESPN could facilitate that. And in the case now, something has changed. Something has changed drastically. Since that was signed, ESPN no longer has a deal with the Big Ten. And since that was signed, now we have two conferences that have largely pulled out from everyone else. It's the Big Ten and the SEC. So really, there's only two choices of conferences for FSU to go to that would be moving forward. That's the Big Ten and SEC. But if this is true about ESPN holding those rights, they've limited FSU's choice to just one location.
Sure.
So if there has been a loss of this freedom since when the contract was signed and what it is now, that's a loss of consideration.
Okay, now let's go down even deeper in the rabbit hole. Let's say that is true, that ESPN owns each school's individual media rights. It gives them even more power. So then the theory of Florida State declaring their withdrawal from the ACC before August 15th would mean that they're joining the SEC, correct?
From my personal perspective, is that there is no way the SEC lets this happen without coming in the fight. So yes.
Okay. So Florida State declares they're going to the SEC. That's the only option. They must have a spot because they wouldn't be withdrawing if they knew they didn't have a spot. What does that do for ESPN's relationship contractually and everything else wise with the rest of the ACC? That means they would have to give up probably Clemson, right? And now suddenly the ACC network is less valuable. I don't know if that. I understand why people believe this is where Florida State's going if they're actually withdrawing before August 15th. But I think it brings up even more issues than the theory that I just put out. Florida State going to the Big Ten.
Well, this would make it much more cost effective. I don't know if the SEC actually wants Florida State yet. I think that's where the problem is. The SEC is pretty slow to move, and I think that they would have to be pushed to do it. And that's kind of what I see this is going on. Is if there is a credible threat for FSU to pay whatever cost it takes to get out of this, and then to go to the Big Ten, that's a credible threat, and the SEC has to act to protect their own self-interest, not just to protect the FSU and that brand, but to protect their entire interest of not having Tallahassee be a Big Ten spot. So that's my idea on this, is that the play is to get the SEC to act so it's a lot cheaper. But if they don't, they've got a backup plan in order to cover the much heavier cost to the Big Ten.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I'm going to get to another caller's immaculate.
Yep.
I appreciate the call. You and I are going to be talking about this at least up until August 15th, right?
Then
we'll
got a lot
see.
of talks.
Huh?
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of talks ahead.
Yes. Thank you so much. Great phone call. Appreciate it.
Call from
Jeff Fuller.
Jeff Foley, can you just hold 1 second, please?
Sure thing, Greg.
D5 Terps, thank you so much for your super chat. You just you wanted to thanks for my time. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mr. Terrapin, for your generosity. And then there's a comment here I want to get to. Village Idiot, or is it Village? Yeah, Village Idiot. If Big Ten adds a Washington, Oregon, Florida State, who's the fourth team under this crazy scenario that they're just speculating on, trying to figure out why Florida State would be so confident in an August 15th withdrawal, going to somewhere else? Village Idiot, I have no idea. Not even under this scenario. That's a great question. Great question. But go ahead and speculate in the comments section or in the phone calls. Jeff Fuller, thanks for calling. The floor is yours, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having the show, and thanks for all the peeks around the corner that you've given us. And, we just have to give you kudos for nailing a lot of this. I know you say you take some L's along the way as far as, dates here or there or a few things, but, sometimes it's a moving target. But I do agree with you that there's a lot of people out there that have not, that have been completely, absolutely 100% wrong. And they're, and even your caller, before Immaculate Western Civic. Oh boy. I mean, I'm a physician. I think he is consuming mega doses of copium. I don't know what's going on there, man.
Yeah.
He was for months saying, no way, no Pac-12 school would ever leave us, but AAU, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And now that Colorado's left and Arizona's looking to be leaving, it's looking like.
Yeah.
And now he's saying, oh, it's relegation. It's this is classic narcissist behavior. I shouldn't point fingers. But I mean, we've been subjected to listening to him, and it's a little bit of what we deal with as BYU fans with a lot of the Utah fans. Just this Nova Riche, this new money, and think they're the biggest things in the world. And it's hard to deal with.
I think we've seen a lot of this narcissism on Twitter, right? All the none of them. I haven't seen any of them say anything about, I got it wrong. I got it completely wrong. Not one comment, not even a hint, not even a wink, not just. It's not in their DNA, Greg. Yeah,
and there's exceptions. Of course, there's great fans everywhere, and there's horrible fans for every school. We all have our fans that we're embarrassed of. But if you're looking at percentages, the Pac-12, they're just they think that they are still this huge, wonderful conference and these mega brands that everyone should just bow down and pay attention to, and that and then there's sort of the academic side of things where they live in the big cities on the West Coast, and they're so much better than the unwashed that live in flyover country or in the South or whatever, and that's part there's a lot of I guess you could say thinly veiled political undertones of what's going on here about just not wanting to associate with fan bases that are maybe of different political leanings. And we're not going to get into politics. I know your role's on the show.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting to see. But I think Canzano said we're going to trade up by getting rid of Colorado and adding San Diego State. And you saw this a mile away. They started the spin machine on the spin cycle, the washing machine on the spin cycle a while back. Yeah. Just saying how that would be a trade up, and all they're talking about is football record, and they're just going to pound this drum for Colorado and Arizona's football record for the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, football is the biggest driver for realignment and the biggest driver for money and revenue and media rights. But when you're valuing schools for realignment, you can't even match up San Diego State and Colorado. They're by their own standards, they're talking about TV markets, and academics are so important to AAU. And San Diego State is an R2 school; it's not even an R1 school. It's just no comparison when you line up the histories, the fan bases, the brands, the TV markets of Colorado versus San Diego State. It's no comparison, and it's just really, it's sad to see all this, like I said, copium that's being consumed.
Yeah. What do you think about Florida State? Are they actually going to pull the trigger before August 15th?
Boy, I just don't see it. I mean, who knows? There might be some things going on behind the scenes that that you're hearing more rumors of than I am. That's just I just don't see it. They were not added to the AAU, and Miami and Notre Dame and even USF, another Florida school, was added to the AAU, and Florida State wasn't. You think that would, especially these rumors to the Big Ten. I know it's not a requirement, but I know the Big Ten likes it. The AAU doesn't run conference realignment, but I know the Big Ten likes it. So, and maybe they had donors saying, well, we didn't get AAU, let's just go SEC now. And SEC is really quiet about realignment. We've learned that time and time again.
Yeah.
So maybe there is some major cloak going on and some daggers coming. But we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Is that it, Jeff?
All right, man. Yeah, that's all I got. Just happy that the Big 12 is getting stronger and more secure. Part of the security is, we don't have the brands that are going to be picked off by others, but hey, it's a beautiful place to be.
Yes, it is.
They've done surveys of Olympic medalists, and if you look, they've looked at smiles and happiness levels of the 3 Olympic medalists. Do you know the bronze medalists are happier than the silver medalists? And maybe that's where we're going to be in the Big 12, and just happy to be a strong number 3.
You're in the room. You are in the room. So
on the podium.
Yes.
On the podium is big.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, man.
Appreciate it. Great call. All right, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button. It helps us with YouTube so very much. Share the video with your family and friends.
Call from
ABO Prep.
Soap. Mr. Soap.
Hey.
What's going on,
Greg.
sir?
Sure.
The floor is yours.
Okay. Hey, Greg, before I'd like to make a comment about the Florida situation, but before I do, I heard something incredible yesterday. I was watching something on YouTube. It had the gentleman that you share the program with at BYU, Boomer, I think, and there was a gentleman by the name of Fritz, and they were on with a group of people, and they were talking about something you and I had spoken about 2 months ago, right after the end of the meeting at the Greenbrier. I called you and I told you that the Big 12 had started a marketing group that would possibly be involved with the renaming of the conference. And that I thought that there was a real possibility that you could see a major player like Nike or something come in and call it the Nike conference and use that marketing in a tremendous way, even pay players through the NIL process. And sure enough, these guys were talking about that same thing yesterday, and they said that it just came up, or they just came about it. So this, I think, the fact that a couple of us have come up with the same idea, and give credit to the PATC community is coming up with the idea first.
Yeah.
I think this is something that really could be the takeoff. And if you look at Oregon and Washington, up until I did a little bit of research, I assumed Oregon and Washington would be moving on their own. But I didn't realize how different those schools are.
Oh, yeah.
Oregon is not part of the AAU.
Yes, they are. They just don't do a whole lot of research, but they're AAU.
Yeah. Now Washington does a tremendous amount of research. They spend more research money than I think even Stanford does on an annual basis. They do more than the University of Minnesota, which is a big research university. They're about $1.5 billion annually. So yeah, and Oregon's about 150 million. So it's a big difference between those universities. And with their commitment to sports, I'm just saying maybe Washington fits in the Big Ten better than Oregon does, and Oregon fits in the Big 12 maybe better than most people think. And there's a possibility we could see a situation after Arizona commits, which I think we all kind of agree is going to happen, that
that you could see Oregon and Utah make a commitment to the Big 12 as opposed to Oregon and Washington, or Utah and Arizona State. So I just think that that's something we ought to really look at as a possibility here, coming down that Oregon and Washington wouldn't necessarily move together as a unit, and that there's real potential for Oregon and their Nike affiliation in the Big 12. But to jump over to the Florida situation, Greg, you posted something, I believe your last show, showing a calendar, not a calendar, but a outline of the meeting that's going to take place next week in Florida, showing that there will be a vote on a booster, some commitment to or a loan from a booster or to a booster. But right above it, it had a vote. The line item before it was a vote for some type of organization. And I'm wondering if that vote isn't to form an organization, and the vote after it is to fund it with a loan from the booster group.
I'll take another look at it. I don't have that ready to post up again.
No worries. It stuck out in my head as
sure. I'll take another look at it. That Action 4 of that August 2nd meeting doesn't have anything to do with potential building a war chest for the Gore fight. That loan has to do with something else. But I'll take a look at the action before it and see what it's.
No, that's fine. But I want to make this clear on my belief here. I think that the fight is going to be with Florida State and disillusionment of the league. I think they're going to court to dissolve the league. I think if they go to court to try to fight the battle of joining another league and leaving, they're going to get stuck in the argument of how much are you going to pay in a fee to depart? What about your grant of rights? Where in turn they already have 8. Because there's the original group of 7, and then I believe Louisville came out and said they would be the 8th to sign off on disillusionment of the league. And I think that's where the battle line is going to be drawn, because that's a much cleaner and shorter process to go through. They could come out and say, we're going to leave because we're going to dissolve the league in this period of time, and let the battle be fought along those lines of disillusionment. And if I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
Well, I want to ask you a question.
Absolutely.
I have a couple of different problems with the dissolution theory, but I'm fine with people calling in. And first of all, my first problem is if the Magnificent Seven thought that dissolution theory was valid, I think they would have pulled the trigger and grabbed an 8th school and just go ahead and they would have done it months ago. But my bigger question is I don't think there is a landing spot for 8 schools in the SEC and the Big Ten. However, if you include the Big 12, yes, they would be landing spots for the 8 schools. But is that enough to risk a dissolution and all the risks that goes with it if you're the couple schools that are going to the Big 12? I don't know. I don't. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, yeah, it's a great point. Great point, Greg. Yeah. I think collusion would prevent you from having in place some type of automatic acceptance to the Big 12 or the Big Ten or the SEC. However, it's everybody knows that the Big Ten wants Miami. If Miami were available, the Big Ten would jump on Miami. If Virginia Tech and Louisville, along with say
Pittsburgh
and North Carolina State, those would all be outstanding additions to the Big 12 and the Big Ten. And then you're just looking at 3 spots, be it North Carolina, Clemson, and Florida State to the SEC, which they would jump at. So I think I don't think there's too much of a stretch there for those groups to say, hey, look, let's go ahead and do it. They've got the 8. They have the 8 because Louisville said they would join that group. I think that they have to go through the courts to do this. And I think that's what they're going to do with Florida State. I might very well be completely wrong.
Got it. All righty. Thanks for the call, man.
Thank you, Greg. Have a great weekend.
You too. Appreciate it.
And congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good
21 years. 21 years with the little general.
God bless her. She is a true saint, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yep.
Good. Take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Call from
Ryan Martin.
Ryan Martin, the floor is yours. What's going on?
How you doing, sir?
Doing great. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Oh, it's a beautiful day to be a Big 12 fan.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, sir. I kind of want to address the rabbit hole you took us down earlier because I think there's one thing that a lot of people don't really consider in all of this, that there's this idea that, well, of course the Big Ten would want Oregon and Washington, and that all of these teams, like all of these organizations would want all of these teams. When all of the noise coming out of the Big Ten for the last couple of weeks and months has been, we want to see how Western expansion works out with USC and UCLA. And that there's not really the stomach to take more, especially when the biggest problem for the Big Ten is their media deal. It's great, gives them a ton of money, brings in USC and UCLA, and it great expansion there, right? But you're limited to the 3 OTA windows, and they all have exclusivity clauses. Fox only gets the one Fox game for the big noon game every week on Saturday, and then the Big Ten Network, and I believe I read somewhere about there being some leeway for like a Friday FS1 game. Mm-hmm. And then NBC and CBS in their respective time slots have exclusivity contracts. So a Big Ten game can't go on Fox or NBC when it's on the air in CBS. Mm-hmm. So the biggest problem with bringing in anybody is that you have to find the money to pay for them. And you have these great games that would be great matchups that would rate really well on the OTA networks, but you don't have the OTA slots to put them in. Your major networks are going to want they're going to want Ohio State, Michigan, those games, because those are the biggest draws for the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They're going to want those games every single week on their OTA channels. They're Illinois, Minnesota, all of them, if they're not playing one of the big 3, Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State, mm-hmm. they're going to end up, more likely than not, playing their game on the Big Ten Network or on FS1 for the Friday night game. They need a fourth partner in order to justify these additions. But the only place that person can really go is in the 4th time slot out on the West Coast. And or a more premier Friday night slot. Yeah. I don't think Florida FS1 game on Friday night. I think there could probably be another Friday night Amazon game, for example. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Either that 4th window or I get it. Yeah. So you would need to bring in a 4th media partner, which I don't think that they can really do at this point. They're still hammering out some of the last little details even right before the season is supposed to start. I know this this is kind of a weird one-off year because CBS still has SEC obligations it's fulfilling for its last year of that contract.
Yeah.
But you're starting a brand new media contract and trying to bring in all of these whatever. And to a larger point, I think it kind of illustrates the point that you hit diminishing returns as far as the Big Ten would love to, like in a vacuum, would love to add Oregon and Washington. They would be great value adds for that conference. But you don't have enough slots to pay them that premium price. So, and it's going to be the same problem for Florida State. Even if they can get into, the Big Ten, which I can get into my whole thing on that in a second. Yeah. Even if they can get into the Big Ten, and the Big Ten would want to make that jump to be right in the heart of SEC country. Because, find Tallahassee on a map, and then find all of the SEC teams that are within, a 500-mile radius of Tallahassee, and that's a big old flag planted for the Big Ten right there. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that they would want that, especially when, we've seen kind of public temper tantrums about having to play. Oh, we didn't realize when we signed this contract that we were going to have to play, 7 p.m. kickoffs for late streaming games for Peacock and whatever. So there's some wiggle room there, but legitimately this seems more like saber rattling from FSU to me. I don't think that they're going to be successful in challenging the grant of rights this early. I certainly don't think that ESPN is going to give them up.
Yeah, see, that's what I believe. That's why I brought up this theory, because it doesn't have anything to do with ESPN, and it doesn't have anything to do with Florida State being successful on a challenge. There's no way Florida State, whatever you think of their cases in regards to challenging the grant of rights, there's no way they're going to be successful before July 1st, 2024. They might not be successful before July 1st, 2025. They might not be successful before July 1st, 2026. They might not be successful ever.
Yeah.
So, that theory that people have talked about, where they do an end run around the grant of rights, where they go to the Big Ten, there's nothing to do with ESPN. Does ESPN still televises Florida State's games, those home games, the money goes to the ACC. That's why people are talking about that type of theory. Again, I ask you and everybody else in the PATC community, if it is true, if it's true that Florida State is going to withdraw from the ACC conference before August 15th, which is 16 days away, it has to be. They have to know where they're going, right?
Yeah.
And where would that be? And how would they get there? Those...
I would bet $1 that that they end up staying within the ESPN ecosystem. Why? Because they can continue to monetize and justify, well, here we have to pay, Florida State, we have to pay the ACC whatever the base rate is for a Florida State game for those home games. But then they can justify paying the SEC or the Big 12 or whoever they end up going to. We can justify paying them more because, it's a game that we picked that ends up on an ESPN channel. It's, yes, if they move to the Big Ten, it's like all their home games could end up on, or will still end up on ESPN.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But with the true value that is generated from those games from those matchups. It would have to go to the Big 12 or the SEC because it's easier for ESPN to make those sorts of decisions and payments, I think.
Yeah.
Or realistically, this was my other thought, is it's a backdoor way in for ESPN to get back into the Big Ten's grant of rights and say that, well, hey, we'll let you have Florida State plant a flag right in the heart of the SEC territory, but you got to let us into distribution rights for, X amount of games a year.
Yeah.
And then we have to be a part of that permanently.
Yeah, I don't know if that will fly, but I don't think those other networks are going to go for it, CBS and NBC. But I understand where you're going with it.
It's one of those things where it's like ESPN needs the quid pro quo. And it doesn't really matter to Florida State where it ends up, as long as it's making up that gap, right? So if it ends up, say, in the Big 12, and this is something that I've seen a lot of people continue to discount, but with the Colorado move, the center of gravity has shifted in college sports. There is a very, very real possibility. They're not going to get paid, I'm not saying they're going to get paid Big Ten or SEC dollars or whatever, but the Big 12 in the next round very, very likely narrows that gap.
Yeah.
Whether or not that significantly remains to be seen, but that is the one place where that's been the biggest complaint. Oh, they don't have a marquee brand. They don't have a standard bearer to be that big value. What does ESPN do? Come on down. Oregon, Washington, Florida State, bring them into the Big 12 and raise the profile of that conference and justify paying them. And then you have another conference that's relatively similarly sized to the SEC and the Big Ten that, again, doesn't make near as much. Well, doesn't make as much, but makes it competitive, makes it competitive.
All right. I'm going to get to another phone call. Ryan, I appreciate it. Great phone call. You covered just about everything. Wow. Call again. Hang with us, man. This is crazy.
I will. I try. I try my best. I miss some of the shows, but
no problem. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
I see a lot of Knowles in the chat room. I want a Florida State Knowles to give us a call here at Peek Around the Corner. Give us the down low. Is this August 15th withdrawing from the conference, the ACC? Is there real fire? Because we believe there's real smoke. Let us know. Ron Lowney says yes. Okay, somebody give us a call. Some Seminole, give us a call here. 763-260-1333. By the way, the Minnesota Golden Gophers versus the Iowa Hawkeyes, that's going to be on NBC. That's going to be prime time. That game is for the Pig of Rosedale. So not all the big games are with the big three teams in the Big Ten.
Call from
Anthony Manzano.
The floor is yours, Anthony. What's going on, sir?
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Doing good.
Greg, I have a question, actually. This applies to the grant of rights. Let's say Clemson, Miami, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Florida State can't dissolve the grant of rights because it's so steadfast. Could it be possible that maybe the ACC and the Big 12 merge, or the ACC tries to cannibalize the Big 12 and add teams from that conference?
Well, the Big 12 also has their grant of rights. So,
Is it possible to merge their grant of rights to make it?
Well, so they're going to merge into one conference. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, is it possible? Is it feasible?
Is it possible? I guess, but I don't. First of all, would any of those Big 12, would all those Big 12 schools that merged with the ACC, would they have to sign the ACC grant of rights that lasts until 2036? Because if so, they would say no. Would those ACC...
No, I'm saying merging both grant of rights. Merging the Big 12 grant of rights with the ACC grant of rights.
I know, but the ACC grant of rights goes until 2036. Even this new one from the Big 12 goes on to about 2029 to 2030. So when you say merge them, which date is the end date of the grant of rights?
2032.
Well,
probably.
I'm not sure ESPN would go for that. Because
why do you say that?
Well, because ESPN has such a great deal with the ACC. It's so beneficial that the contract that the ACC signed with the ESPN is hugely beneficial for ESPN. They're getting the ACC contract at a very good price for them. They don't want to renegotiate with the ACC. They don't want to shorten up that grant of rights. Plus, ESPN, that's a public company. They can't just, they're not.
And what people forget actually also now is that Disney is actually thinking of selling off ESPN, to be honest.
Sure.
And I think, Bob Iger did one of those calls, and he's saying he's planning to sell off some of the networks they bought after the last round when they merged and stuff like that. They're thinking of selling off some of their assets to gain more money back and stuff like that. And ESPN's on the table. Then who would buy that? Like, what other would Fox buy ESPN? Would NBC or CBS buy ESPN? Realistically, if that happens,
I don't know. There's been so many articles written about ESPN and Bob Iger and what he may or may not sell. Some of those articles contradict each other. I'll just wait to see what happens. I don't think any of that, what's going on with ESPN, affects what is happening now, or at least in the short term. A lot of Pac-12 fans that thought maybe if Apple bought ESPN, that Apple would do the media contract with the Pac-12, and they would have linear and streaming exposure for the Pac-12, and that would save the Pac-12. And that's not going to happen in time to... I think that storyline, it'll have an end game, but the end game is after all this stuff right now plays out in college football. So that's how I feel about it.
Okay, and Greg, this applies to let's say Miami and Florida State and Clemson are able to go get out of the grant of rights physically. Like, let's say hypothetically they're able to get out of it, and let's say that SEC or Big Ten decides they don't want any of those teams. Would it make sense for them to go to the Big 12 and raise the value of that conference then later down the road?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We and nothing against the Big 12, but if you're risking, you're taking a heavy risk by leaving the ACC, by challenging the grant of rights. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost money, resources, and you are putting a lot of sweat equity in this, and you're only doing it, in my belief, to go to the SEC or the Big Ten.
Not a lower conference at the same level.
Well, I don't think so. And nothing against the Big 12. I don't think so. I mean, look, the Big 12, the schools in the Big 12, they have a better Tier 1 and Tier 2 contract with ESPN and Fox than the ACC schools have with ESPN. But the ACC schools have a much better Tier 3 contract, ACC network. They get way more revenue in the ACC network than the Big 12 schools get with ESPN+.
Okay,
all of it balanced. Go ahead.
And Greg, this applies to what? It seems like the Big 12 is it seems like they're transitioning to more of a basketball-centric conference. If, let's say, the ACC loses their big brands, do you think it would benefit them to focus more on maybe being a baseball-centric conference if they lose the big brands in football, like Clemson, Miami, FSU, and stuff like that, and maybe try to convince the baseball programs at those schools to stay and focus mainly on baseball and stuff like that?
Well, I thank you for a phone call. I lost you most of the way. I couldn't really quite hear what you were saying, but even though I'm just going to answer it this way. Even though the Big 12 conference is the best basketball conference in the country. Wow.
Call from
John Ryland.
John, the floor is yours. What do you got to say, sir?
Well, I noticed that the ACC said about 2 or 3 days ago that they weren't interested in expanding, and they changed course, and now they're open to expanding. And about a month ago, the SEC, I heard on one of the shows, was in communication with the ESPN concerning the ACC. I believe that the Nobles are going to take the path of least resistance, go to the SEC, and deal with an undisclosed amount of settlement between them. And I appreciate your show. You do a good job. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great call. Great call. The path of least resistance, I think you're correct. I think going to the SEC in some way would be the path of least resistance for the Seminoles. However, there's this thing about how does the ESPN deal with the ramifications of doing that with the rest of the ACC schools years down the road. If ESPN acquiesce Florida State's move to the SEC, path of least resistance, what about Clemson? Then Clemson does it. Okay, let's just stop at those two. But what does that do with the value of the ACC network? That's less money coming in for the rest of those ACC schools. What does that do with ESPN's relationship with the ACC, Jim Phillips, the leadership there, and with North Carolina? I mean, can they keep the conference together? What keeps from North Carolina just filing some suit and saying, look, I thought we were all in this together. I thought the ACC owned our grant of rights. Does the ESPN own our grant of rights? It is, at first blush, FSU going to the SEC seems like the path of least resistance. But I'm not sure. Once again, peek around the corner, we have no confirmation whatsoever that Florida State is going to pull the trigger and officially withdraw from the ACC conference before August 15th. But there is serious people that are on the hunt on this story. There's already people talking about Florida State's building up their war chest. They're going to do it. We always thought it was going to be the first quarter of 2024. But man, if this happens, it will be a bomb, an atomic bomb dropped on all of us in the college football landscape. And the one other thing, and I brought this up on Coos Corner, the way that Mike Alford answered the question when he was asked at ACC Media Days. Now hang with me, PATC community. When Mike Alford was asked, what is Florida State's status with the ACC conference? And Mike Alford answered it in such an odd way. He said, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, we're members of the ACC, proud and committed, whatever. Then he also said the following, because somebody asked him,
Call from
Attorney Dave.
Attorney Dave, can you hold on 1 second? I just want to finish my thought.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Because he was asked about the August 15th date, Mike Alford. Alford answered in the following manner. He said, well, there's no board of trustees meeting lined up between now and August 15th. That was such an odd way of answering that question. Because you know what? It takes minutes to schedule a meeting at the board of trustees at Florida State and everywhere else. For him to say that, to say, look, of course we're members of the ACC. We don't even have any meetings lined up between now and August 15th. That raised red flags to me and other people out there. That's all I'm saying. Attorney Dave, the floor is yours, good sir. What do you got to say?
Yeah, thanks for the show. It's really been informative. I think that your point about whether there's an actual landing spot is a big one for FSU because there's a lot of risk that the Big Ten would take by having active communications with FSU about leaving and basically breaching a contract with the ACC at that point. And so same thing for Fox. And so if there's not if it didn't go down sort of what you were saying where they're not breaching anything, they're paying $120 million to get out of the ACC, and then they're allowing ESPN to broadcast, even that, there's real potential that if they were induced into some sort of breach, that then the Big Ten would also be involved in some lawsuits. And I know that you've mentioned that they have been at the Big Ten very cautious about even with the PAC wanting to make sure that they did not that they're not the ones that destroy the PAC, so that they're not brought into any litigation there. So, like you said, if for FSU at this point, if they're having communications with the Big Ten, that would be a pretty brazen move by the Big Ten at this point, even back channel. Because, those are all things that would come out in discovery. Those are all things that would come out in lawsuit. And FSU, you're talking about not just a breach of contract. You're talking about potential breach of fiduciary duty, potential breach of loyalty. Since they're, a board, they serve on the board of directors, basically, of the ACC and are supposed to have, their interests in mind. So this is complicated stuff. The scenario that you laid out, there could be something like that. That would just take so many different people acting at the same time that, it's just incredibly risky. And so from what I've heard, this is the type of situation where FSU would have to truly believe in an existential crisis. This is nuclear option type situation.
Yep.
And, otherwise you're talking about an incredible amount of risk that they're taking and a lot of legal wrangling that would occur moving forward here.
So I take it, Attorney Dave, that you believe it's a pretty big long shot that we're going to see Florida State declare their withdrawal from the ACC conference on or before August 15th. Am I true in that?
I think it's a pretty big long shot.
Yeah.
You're also talking about a state institution that has a lot of duties in and of itself to the state of Florida. And there'd probably be a lot of actors that would need to be informed of what they're about to do and the amount of risk they're about to take on throughout the state government, never mind just within the university. There's a lot of folks that they have to answer to, including this would become a pretty big political hot potato, we would say, as well. There's a potential for it to go really well for FSU, but there's also a potential for it to go very bad and to be a very negative look for all of college sports. If there's a lot of litigation that's occurring between the ACC, FSU, the Big Ten, Fox, and ESPN, that sounds like a complete and utter cluster that would be negative not just for FSU, but be real negative for everybody involved in college sports right now, in a time where there's a lot of difficult issues that we all know that are being dealt with at this point, including asks to Congress. And so if you end up in litigation and you end up with all of your major power players, with really ESPN, Fox, or at the core of this thing, you're talking about a lot of risk from a lot of folks. But I also don't think that ESPN could just sit by, because if they did, then what makes any grant of rights enforceable? And what would same thing with the ACC? Like, if they don't try to enforce this thing, then what else would they do? Their conference would fall apart.
Couple questions. Huge risk, no question about it. Also a huge risk for Florida State to stay in the ACC and fall $30, $40, $50 million a year behind Big Ten and SEC schools in media money, right? We agree on that. Big risk on that.
Yeah, that's why they may see it as an existential crisis of sorts here.
Okay, so but let me put it this way. Great call, Attorney Dave. Brilliant call. I hope you call over and over and over again, because no matter if this goes to August 15th, after August 15th, this story is going to be long and dramatic. So please, as we continue this discussion, please call this YouTube channel again, okay? Here's
appreciate you.
Here's my thing. In regards to the talking between Florida State and the Big Ten and Fox and all that stuff, that I don't think is going to be a problem. These schools are not always, but there have been indirect talks for years among these schools and these universities. And then the commissioner talks with the network. I mean, that's how this Colorado thing played out. Colorado called the Big 12 first.
But the only difference there between what you're talking about with what FSU's doing and what Colorado just did, or what USC just did, or UCLA, or what Texas and Oklahoma just did, is they didn't breach a contract. And so if you're inducing them to breach a contract, that's different, because Texas and Oklahoma, for example, were going to stay within the Big 12 until their contract was over. They ended up finding it was both their interest to cut off that last year. But if you're inducing someone to breach a contract and they breach, then that's where you might have some real problems of litigation over a tortious interference claim.
Yeah, I absolutely, that's where I was going to get to, but you said it a lot better than I was going to say it. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So, all that being said, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say Florida State does do this, though, before August 15th. Okay? Even though we think it's a long shot. Let's say they do it. Then are you under the belief that it would be more probable that Florida State landing spot is with the SEC? Because of everything you just said? Because there still would be issues with, I believe, some ACC schools, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think you also have issues with ESPN, right? So the SEC, I mean, is clearly at this point, just like the Big Ten is with Fox, clearly in a very strong relationship with Disney. And so if it's not in the interest of ESPN, I think you'd be hard-pressed for, I mean, this is not legal, but it's just kind of common sense that the SEC wouldn't want to step on toes. So that would kind of probably be up to ESPN. ESPN also has a fiduciary duty to the ACC in their contract at this point. So, I mean, there would be a lot of moving parts there. I'd say that's more likely. I think it's more likely years down the line, too. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is as the leverage that ESPN has moves down, right, with the ACC as the years go away, then it could be a situation it's like, okay, well, let's keep FSU happy, Clemson happy, and work that out with the SEC here to create some sort of situation that we can keep those types of brands within our network. But ESPN just poured a lot of money into creating that ACC network, and this was the purpose of it was they wanted them to sign a grant of rights.
Yes.
So it would be a difficult thing for me to see ESPN just step aside and say, "Oh, this is fine. We'll upgrade you." And then you have drama with Florida State and the SEC. I mean, there's a lot of old memories in the SEC with with what happened in 1990 and some of those things. So it's not just like a automatic. Oh yeah, the SEC would want Florida State. I think that they're a great brand. They're definitely one of the premier brands in college sports, but not necessarily one that the SEC would be 110% on board with. So there's a lot of politics that would have to go into that. That's why it's just for them to leave on August 15th.
It's mind-blowing.
A difficult thing.
It's mind-blowing, right?
That's right. It would be a very difficult thing for them to do.
Okay, let me throw one more thing at you. Can I throw one more thing at you?
Sure.
Okay, so what if, Florida State was the last school to sign that grant of rights? Okay? They were the original one in 2013. Swofford had to go down there and twist his arm. I'm not talking about the extended grant of rights, where they extended in 2016 to go from 2027 to 2036 because the considerations that those schools were getting was the creation of the ACC network. You just touched upon that, correct? But the original the original Gore, Florida State, Swofford had to go down to Tallahassee. He had to twist their arms, and they finally signed it. Is there a possibility? I know this is complete, guesswork, speculation, but could there be something in the communications between Florida State and the ACC at that time when they were twisting Florida State's arm? Something in that communication where Florida State doesn't believe they received all the considerations that were guaranteed them. I know that's impossible to answer because none of us have seen the true all of the gore, but what do you think about that? Is that Florida State's angle? Could that be their angle to challenge it in the courts?
I mean, they'd have to. Well, one, the new grant of rights would have superseded the old one, and so the old one, it would be hard to even bring that situation. I'll say that, I mean, the ACC would likely seek injunctive relief pretty quickly if this were to happen. So this could actually be handled, at least initially, on the merits, pretty quick. But I mean, you basically have to be saying that the ACC was fraudulent in how it handled things. That's I mean, or at least being pretty near to alleging that there was fraud, duress of some sort, that some fraudulent inducement. And that's that would be quite the claim that the ACC would have to make at that point, or I mean that type of issue would have to make about the ACC at that point, which would be would definitely be a difficult thing to prove, we'll say.
Yeah, Roman Maroney in the chat says he's driving a coercion. The contention is that it's not arm's length. That might void the contract. In other words,
that would make sense with a less sophisticated party, but with a sophisticated party like Florida State University, who has their own general counsel and a team of general counsel members and has outside counsel, and I mean, a president of a university that's a sophisticated party that's the one signing on the contract, to say that they were coerced would be a difficult argument to make, I think, in front of a judge.
Okay. Hey, Attorney Dave, thanks for your call. I'm going to get to some more phone calls. I appreciate it. Please call us again. You are the official PATC lawyer, so we'll be asking you lots of questions from now on in, okay?
Sounds good. You have a good one.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Attorney Dave must be just sitting back there, just shaking his head at me when I'm trying to talk lawyer speak here in the studio of PATC. He must be thinking, oh my goodness, but I am I thank him for calling us so much. I hope he calls us over and over and over again. Goal knows FSU. We aren't scared. Believe it or not, the ACC deal was more lucrative than the SEC's deal when we joined the conference in 1992.
Call from
Steve.
Steve, Mr. Bearcat, he's on the line. The floor is yours, sir.
How you doing, Greg?
Doing good. Doing real good. How are you doing, sir?
Good. Thank goodness for Bob Bowlesby and the remaining 8 of the Big 8, because Cincinnati definitely be on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah.
With all this, with everything going on. I want to switch gears just a bit when we're talking about who's moving where.
I'm sorry. Steve?
Sure. Yeah.
Steve, I apologize. Okay, I think I've done this to you before. I just want to break in with a tweet.
Sure.
Okay? I apologize, Steve. You can have as much time as you want.
Needed.
Okay. Jason Shear of Arizona Authority, and you guys know how much, well, let me make something clear. I think he might have talked to me a couple years ago. I think he tweeted something out maybe last month. We have never communicated. I mean, you know, like, you guys know what I mean. Behind the scenes or anything. He's been dead accurate within this Pac-12 saga story, okay? The rumors this week are going to be insane. Would expect the Big Ten and ACC rumors to pick up as well. Jason Shear, 4 minutes ago. The rumors this week are going to be insane. Would expect the Big Ten and ACC rumors to pick up as well. That's why. Now, he might be talking ACC expansion, which I think Florida State would put their foots down. I don't think he's talking about that. There's a reason why Act 1 is starting today on July 30th. We can't confirm anything at Peek Around the Corner, but there is real smoke with real people hunting this. And not only do I not have all the answers, I don't think I have answers to any questions, but that's why we're opening it up today. That is Jason Shear. I think we're going to get a lot more cryptic tweets and messages. So buckle up, brace for impact, stay close to Peek Around the Corner. Holy smokes, theater is going to be awfully busy. Steve, Mr. Bearcat, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for letting me put that tweet out.
No problem. Shift gears just a little bit.
Yep.
Would you agree that Notre Dame's pretty much got an open invitation to the Big Ten, Greg?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why I kind of wanted to get to this NBC Notre Dame thing. NBC is now a media partner of the Big Ten, correct?
Yes, sir.
Notre Dame says, I don't know, a few months ago, what were they looking at? We want $70 million or whatever, right? I think that was the number somewhere in there. When it comes time and push starts to shove, would it be beyond the realm of possibilities that NBC lowballs the heck out of them?
I don't think that's out of the possibility. I don't think they would lowball them out of spite or anything. I think, but I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. Nope.
Okay, the reason I ask that, NBC's already a media partner with the Big Ten. NBC's going to have a Notre Dame game, correct? They're going to have a Big Ten game, correct?
Yes.
Well, what if, now, there may be some collusion here, I don't know, but NBC says, hey, we got a Friday night game in the Big Ten, and be truthful with you, and nothing against Marshall, but we would rather have Purdue and Indiana at our afternoon, or Purdue and Notre Dame in our afternoon slot instead of Marshall and Notre Dame. So therefore, we're not giving you $70 million alone, but come to the Big Ten and you're going to be on, and Big Ten eyes are going to be on you, and we'll work it out with CBS and Fox and so forth, that you're going to make the same amount of money being a member of the Big Ten and get, how can I say it, Greg? Not better exposure, but maybe more exposure, more big games. Is that even within the realm of possibility?
Yes, that's in the realm of possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was thinking crazy. Seriously, I didn't, because
no,
I think NBC is going to come in and say, nah, I don't think 70, and I think they're going to say, well, we kind of got our eye on an NBA game on the weekend or something. You know, I think they're going to use the same excuse that's not excuse, the same thing that's going on right now within the economy, that, you know, maybe we don't have $70 million to give you right now, Notre Dame, but we would think that if we get with Big Ten, our media partner, they would welcome you in, and we could figure out something to get you to what the Big Ten's paying. I don't know, Greg. I just that's just crossed my mind that scenario could come about.
It could. I don't think NBC. And we have said this for months, and I might take the L on this, Steve, but I just don't think Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame is going to get the revenue that they hope to get from NBC. I don't think it's going to be a.
No.
Yeah. So.
I agree with that part.
So. Yeah.
You know, so then one thing leads to another to another.
Yeah.
Because Notre Dame knows the Big Ten wants them.
Yeah.
The Big Ten saying the door is open tomorrow.
Yeah.
The Big Ten's going to go to NBC and say, okay, so you're going to pony up 60 for them. Let's just use that number, 50 for them.
Yeah.
Let's all find a way for Notre Dame to get in here at whatever the current number is for the Big Ten. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you think now. Let's be clear. In the Big Ten media contract, the numbers are already known. What each Big Ten school would make, what Notre Dame would make, right? It's specifically in there. So. Yeah,
I don't know why today I was sitting around and that crossed my mind.
Yeah.
You know, with all the expansion talk and so forth.
Yeah.
So just something I wanted to get your opinion on.
Thank you, Steve. I think. Well,
it's just throwing something else on the.
Well,
You
know, all right, thank you,
throwing
sir.
Another layer on things. Yep.
Appreciate it. Talk to you again, Steve. It's July 30th. There is a reason why. Hold on a second. I need everyone just to calm down a second here. Hold on. Well, the phone is blowing up, so let's just keep going. Donald Skipper. The reason Florida State said they had the Gore handled is because ESPN owns the Florida State Gore and has okayed that Florida State moved to the SEC. Now Florida State has to raise the exit fee to offset the ACC losses from the Florida State exit. So what Donald Skipper is saying is Florida State would have to, about $120 million for the exit fee. Again, not everybody, but more and more people are saying ESPN owns the Florida State grant of rights. And we have been under the illusion, or we thought under the perception that the ACC owns each school's individual rights, and that the licensing, the distribution rights, the license to distribute the ACC content was given to ESPN until 2036. ESPN owning the individual school's rights, I want to see that in an article, in a document. I know people have said that on message boards, YouTube channels like this one, but that doesn't make any sense to me. Why a lot of schools in the ACC would acquiesce to having ESPN own each school's individual media rights. When a conference owns each school's media rights, that gives the conference leverage when they go into negotiations with a potential media partner to get the best deal possible. What did ACC, let me ask a question. Let me open it up to the PATC community. What did Ron Lowney and anybody, what did the ACC get for giving each school's rights to ESPN? What did they get out of it?
Call from
Moen Vision.
Moen Vision, help me out here, Mr. Buckeye. The floor is yours. There's a lot of stuff going on. Who owns the ACC schools' individual media rights when they bundled them up together to sell it on the open market, and ESPN bought the distribution rights? Who owns these individual school rights? We've always thought the conference does. Why would ESPN own those rights?
Yeah, you got me. That doesn't make any sense, but crazier things have happened, It's just, I would pump the brakes on that because I think more people have seen Bigfoot than have actually seen the ACC grant of rights.
Yeah, none of us have really seen that. Now, some people in the chat are saying, when the creation of the ACC network happened and ESPN had to put millions of dollars into that, maybe they were able to get the grant of rights from the conference then. Man, I didn't hear about this. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
like
I know.
I
know.
Crazier things have happened, but I mean, if the ACC schools, if any school actually did that, then it would look even worse than signing a 13-year extension with them.
Yeah, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, that just, I don't know, Greg, but what's Notre Dame to do? Their current home seems to be very unstable, but I know a conference that offers stability, rivalries, the best exposure, the best media dollars, the best brands.
The Golden Gophers.
The Golden Gophers, you're right. The Golden Gophers hockey team. Fielding Yost did some anti-Catholic things in 1926, and I've been told that's still a big deal 97 years later. But,
sure. Yeah.
I think amends can be made.
Yeah.
But it's like I said the other night. This is a game of musical chairs. Everybody game theoried this out, what was going to happen, and everybody had a plan when Colorado left. And despite what you might think about Mike Tyson, he had a great quote. Everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And Colorado left, yet everybody got punched in the mouth. And everybody in the ACC is scrambling. I'm sure Florida State's out there first and foremost because they're by far, I think, the biggest brand in the ACC. But if you don't think Miami and Clemson and North Carolina and all these schools aren't paying attention, they're paying attention too. And so are Oregon and Washington. And they're trying to figure out how they fit in there. And you might be right. It might be a situation where Oregon and Washington, or a particular booster from Oregon, I should say, is going to be paying quite a bit of money to get FSU in and get them in and get Notre Dame in and get Washington in. And because I don't see, I don't know where, if there's a legitimate chance that a school can leave the ACC, the Big Ten will not expand west. Will not. If they can get Notre Dame, if they can get Florida State, they can add Washington and Oregon later. But, I mean, you can't tell me at 20 schools, adding Florida State, Notre Dame, Washington, and Oregon, that's not the premier conference in college athletics.
Yeah, I mean, my head is kind of spinning here, so I'm really starting to wonder if we let off the show saying that the Florida State smoke is real. We just don't have confirmation of how fast that fire is going to burn, right? How big it's going to get, how quickly it gets to us. I'm just wondering if that fire is burning even a little bit hotter than what I even could expect at this point. So,
well, this is the way panics start, Greg. Somebody sells something off, and then more people sell off, and then people sell off cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen. Just like I said earlier in the chat, just a whiff of instability.
Yeah.
Oregon and Washington right now are panicking. Big 12 is, they're Yormark's over there tucking in that napkin into his collar and licking his lips. He's sitting here going, wow, look at this. This is all just going to fall right in, fall right onto the plate. Brett Yormark looks like a genius coming out of this, and some of it is going to be, some of it just might be luck, It's, man, crazy times. In 4 weeks, we have actual football games.
Let's go. Yeah, 4 Saturdays. God, I can't wait. And I'm going to be Greg the Heater this year. I'm going to get so many games right against the spread. It's going to amaze all of you.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to be making another extra mortgage payment this year, Greg, because I don't think that's happening. But, all right, I waited until the end to get a call in here, so I just want to say, I don't know how long you've been running now, but
yeah,
you've been running a long time, Greg.
Yeah.
No future big expansion without Florida State?
Yeah, I don't know anymore. I know less right now than I ever have before. Thank you so much, Monovision. Appreciate it. I got people DMing me, texting me, asking me about Jason Shear's tweet. And there are other people that are very serious. This is why we're doing the show. This is why it's Act 1. Because there's stuff that people believe
Call from
JD.
JB, what's going on, sir? The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. Enjoy your show.
Thank you, sir.
Me to let you know ahead of time, I'm a diehard Noel.
All right, Noel. Thanks for calling. Is it JD?
Yeah, JD. That's just
got it. All right, JD. Let us know what the heck is going on. Please inform us.
Okay. Well, let me talk a little bit about what Attorney Dave was saying a few minutes ago.
Got it.
What everybody needs to take into consideration is there's an ACC buyout. It's there. So the ACC's GOR is a completely separate entity in consideration with the ACC buyout. So it's the ACC buyout. It's 3 years of conference expenses. Right now it's estimated those conference expenses are $31 million a year.
Got it.
So that's $93 million, not a $120 million buyout. So you have that to take into consideration.
So you're saying $93 million right now?
That's the estimate at the
moment.
Got
it. Okay.
Okay. The GOR is a whole different entity. Now, I got to admit, I am a part of that whole Regal No Mafia on War Chant. So people that don't know, we have been debating that topic forever.
Sure.
We've had nearly 3 million viewers. It's been viewed nearly 3 million times.
Yeah.
It's had over 26,000 posts.
Yes, sir.
And I can't tell you how many pages. But anyway, the difference between a lot of fan sites is we do have FSU insiders in there. We do have network insiders in there. We do have a lot of people that are Big Ten insiders in there. So I feel like we get really good information. It's not just fan-based. There's meat to it. Okay?
Got it. Yep, meat to the bone. Yep.
Everything Regal has said up to this point has been accurate. Everything that you've said and you are speculating on today has been rehashed on that thread 100 times. Okay? So what we understand it to be is that the purpose of the GOR is to fulfill the ESPN ACC contract. That's it. And the ACC granted the broadcast rights to ESPN to fulfill the contract.
The broadcast rights.
The broadcast rights.
Yes.
So ESPN, the way we understand it, owns the broadcast rights.
Yes.
For all the ACC teams till 2036.
Yes.
So ESPN controls it. Not the ACC gave it away. They sold it. Is what they did.
See, right away, to me there's a difference between broadcast rights and owning the school's media rights. It's like there may be a difference without a difference. Like,
well, I'm not qualified enough.
Okay, I'm not either.
Which verbiage is right?
Yeah. Okay, go ahead though. Go ahead.
But now going back to something that was talked about a few moments ago, it's my understanding that the new GOR or the GOR that started what was it? Re-signed on to, what was it, 2017 or 2013? I forget which year it was.
Yeah, 2006.
That was primarily for the creation of the ACC network.
Yeah.
So before ESPN would sign on to creating that network, they were forcing all the schools to sign on to the GOR. Okay?
Got it.
Yes. At FSU circles, it is a point of contention every day on how the heck did our leaders ever sign on to that. And granted, those leaders aren't around anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into whether they were good administrators or not, but it was a bad idea to sign this. Okay. So now moving forward, it is our understanding, like you suggested today, like for instance, there is no real GOR buyout. If there's ever a GOR buyout, it's going to be a negotiated monetary buyout.
Yep.
Otherwise, ESPN owns the home broadcasting rights to the ACC schools.
Yes,
so
sir.
whatever deal they work out, whether it be with the SEC, well, that's an easy transition. But if it's to the big, then ESPN, unless they negotiate with Fox, would have the rights to the to broadcast the home games for any of those ACC teams that would move over. Am I making sense so far?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. That's where it stands. We haven't seen it. The other thing on the thread, we viewed the GOR. We've read it multiple times. It's been shared a lot. You can read it. It also stipulates it's been shared, the ACC contract on how teams can leave the ACC and all the steps that you have to follow to accomplish that. So I don't see where the ACC could sue FSU when the agreement gives you a roadmap on how to get out of the conference.
Can you you see my Twitter handle on the bottom of the screen? If you're able to send me any links to that, the new extended grant of rights and all that, what you just said, the withdrawal stuff, can you send it to me? Because everything yes,
sir.
Because
I'll
everything I've seen,
I'll have to go back and look for it, but I'll get online and I'll get some of the other guys to.
I appreciate it because everything I've seen before when it comes to the grant of rights, ACC grant of rights, was prior to the new extended one. Okay,
and that's what I'm not as aware of as far as the difference in the two. I just know to the term on when it ends.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other factors. And then what was the other thing? I'm sorry. What everybody doesn't know or what they don't see is the actual contract.
Yeah.
That's under lock and key. And ESPN doesn't want everybody to view it. Now, there's two or three other things that's been discussed. One, and it's been rehashed on social media several times recently, ESPN puts in the composition clause apparently in all their contracts.
Got it. Yep.
Apparently, and I haven't seen this, but what has been suggested is if two teams or if a certain number of teams have or decide to leave the conference, it gives ESPN the right to either renegotiate or void the deal. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna state a very unpopular opinion here, maybe from other people that are listening. If FSU and Clemson decide to leave, ESPN is going to renegotiate the deal or they're going to cancel it. Because if you look at the viewership numbers for the rest of the conference, those teams aren't worth $50 million a year. Not compared to a lot of the other ones. You get a lot of the ACC teams that, for some of their games, they're only getting 400,000 or 500,000 viewers. Why am I going to give you $50 million for 400,000 or 500,000 viewers?
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of.
Can I ask you a question?
This is my speculation. Is FSU and Clemson have so much more leverage than what people will give them credit for, or were you asking me a question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I got a couple of questions to ask you. So, did you hear at the start of this show about this theory about Florida State leaving and how the Big Ten could incorporate Florida State? Did you hear any of that?
It's been theorized on our message boards for a while.
Okay, so that sort of matched. Okay.
That not only would the Big Ten take Florida State, but an offer's been there for a while.
Okay.
Like quite a while.
Okay, so you are under so you believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You let me know if I'm wrong. Okay, you say no, that's incorrect, Greg. JD believes that there is a good chance that the Florida State Seminoles officially withdraws from the ACC prior to August 15th, 2023. Is that an accurate statement?
I am going to say this. Of all the insiders that we've had on our threads, there are some that are they have inside within decision makers. Up until recently, they were very hesitant to say that would ever happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
Some of the more prominent ones have completely changed their tune and said it could happen within the next few days or weeks. Might be a year, but it is accelerated, is what they say.
Yeah.
There's been things that have been said that some people, and you don't know if that's just speculation or if it's act. We're going to find out in the next few days or the next week or two. We're going to find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out.
But there is speculation that I read things earlier. The deals are done. I mean, there's a lot. If you look on a lot of different sites or you go listen to a lot of different things, there's just been a lot that's been happening behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the national media is a lot of times is listening to the talking heads.
I've been there. I've been there.
So this is my opinion.
Yeah.
ESPN doesn't want people to know about how the GOR works.
Got it. They
don't want that because then if everything falls apart, it looks like it's their fault. No. It's not the ACC's fault; it's their fault. Jim Phillips has done all he can.
Yeah.
I mean, when they spend better part of a couple of years trying to get more revenue, and they keep getting turned down at every turn. I mean, what are the brand programs supposed to do? And then everybody says it's so risky for FSU and Clemson to make this move. Well, how risky is it? You're fixing to be down $30-40 million a year. If you do a $200 million gamble, what's the ACC going to do? Kick you out? Well,
no, you're right. We've been saying that. The risk to not to do something is massive. So, yeah.
But it's just there gets to be to the point that the gamble's done. ESU could get sued, sure. I'm going to tell you how far-fetched. There's even FSU media that'll come out and say, if they would give us a buyout of $300 or $600 million, we'd probably take it.
Yeah.
We'd probably take it. And now we don't think we'll ever have to pay that much. And whatever is paid will be stretched out over a long period of time.
Yeah.
They'll stretch it out for years and years and years. But, it's just all the people, I'm telling you, up until recently, it was probably 60-40, 70-30, like 60 to 70% thought, we're definitely going to be leaving within 5 years. And then, 30-40 are like, I just don't know that it's ever going to happen. Like you're talking about Chris Nee.
Yeah,
Chris,
that was a shock.
Fantastic, man. Chris isn't an alarmist, and Chris doesn't say anything that he doesn't have any good information to back it up.
Yeah, that took my breath away, man.
Yes, sir. But it's just it's where and let me back. Am I taking up too much time?
No. Go ahead, man. And I want you to call again during this saga, okay? Please?
Okay.
Thank you.
And the one thing that the big would enjoy, or I guess what a lot of people don't know is the FSU media is as involved in the fan base as involved in their media as I think any other fan base.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. We probably have 20 different podcast shows. There's different radio shows. I mean, I can't tell you how many episodes. Oh, you'll love it if FSU goes to the big. Your subscriber ratings will just go through the roof.
Yeah.
Because we're an extremely engaged fan base.
No, I see
so
it.
Everything that's going on,
yeah.
we're very knowledgeable on our realignment process and how all this stuff. We're very knowledgeable for college football anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But FSU media, it's not a bunch of fanboys running around just chanting their particular school. They're very professional. They're not alarmist. They don't make outlandish claims, whether it's War Chant, 247, or any of the other ones. I'm telling you, Greg, it's almost 100%. They're saying, no, we're leaving, and we're leaving soon.
Okay, let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
And I think you might have already answered this, but I'm going to go ask it anyways. If Florida State does what I would have considered a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, unthinkable. If they actually withdraw from the conference, give their withdrawal notice to the ACC before August 15th, they must believe they have a landing spot, correct? To do so, which landing spot is it? Is it the SEC or is it the Big Ten?
We would have assumed it was the SEC because of everything. That's just, same network. ESPN can just move it over. That would be the assumption. It just seems from the rumors that the Big wants FSU.
No,
they wanted FSU for a while.
Yeah.
The flirting started apparently, and I say flirting. We knew some of the FSU media had said, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think of the time frame. It was either as early as 2019 or 2018 or 20. I remember seeing I think it was on War Chant. War Chant posted that FSU confirmed that they had been speaking with both the SEC and the Big for a couple of years. Again, I'm just going off of memory. And that article was in 2021. So these conversations have gone on for a while. FSU has spent a lot of time in the last couple of years. They went through about a 5-year slump. They needed to modernize their athletic department. Some of that stuff with Jimbo and Jimbo left was so far-fetched and was so it was exaggerated, but they did need to modernize their athletic department. They've done that. They have as aggressive an athletic director as you'll find in the country. We all love our head coach. We think he's one of the best in the country, and we think he's going to start showing that over the next couple seasons. So, but I'm biased. I'm biased.
Well, we've got Florida State in the college football playoffs. That's our prediction.
I think
Benson,
it's
Travis,
very possible.
Yeah,
very possible. But it's just FSU has always been a brand that didn't fully maximize their potential.
Yeah.
Now they have the administrative in place that more or less is, standing proud like, we're Florida State. We're not going to let you just push us off into mediocrity.
Yeah.
No. I could use some choice words for all that, but they're like, no, hell no, we're not doing that. No, no. You don't have to like us, It's like, I don't like Clemson. I respect them. I don't like them.
Yeah.
And we don't mention the schools in Gainesville or down in Coral Gables. We just don't mention them by name. But I mean, their programs, their respected programs, and we. But it's just we're as a fan base, we're thankful that our administration is putting us where we need to be, and they are just feverishly making that happen.
Got it.
And
all right.
So anyway, Didn't mean to take so much time.
No, please don't. No, you need to call us back. There's a reason why we open up Act 1 of the ACC Drama in our Holy Smokes Theater in our imaginary town here at Peek Around the Corner. You probably don't. I don't know how much you've been following us here at Peek Around the Corner. I don't know. I don't know if any Florida State Noles fans even know who I am or what we've done in the past. We were the ones who broke the USC story. Our story was covered in the Los Angeles Times. We nailed this Colorado thing months and months and months. We've been doing this, and we had smoke on December 26, 2022 from a Florida State money perch that gave us the warning that in a couple of months from now, Florida State was going to make some noise. And then 2 months later, on February 24th, Mike Alford spoke. So we're on this story. We think there's real smoke to it. We can't confirm about the August 15th. So, JD, I appreciate you calling us. I hope you call us again to keep us informed here at Peek Around the Corner. But Florida State, yeah, they're on the stage, on the side of the stage here in Act 1, and we'll see what happens. But I appreciate you calling us, sir. Thank you so very much.
Yes. And you and I have engaged on Twitter a time or two, so
Okay,
I'll
so you do know what we do here. So okay, I appreciate it.
I've seen 4 or 5 of your shows, and I'll watch more frequently.
Got it. I appreciate it, JD, Mr. Seminole. Please give us a call once again. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Holy smokes! Well, with JD's comments, with Jason Shear's tweet, and with everything, and a whole bunch of stuff we can't even talk about at this point. Daniel Montecastle, thank you so much for your super chat, for your friendship. Epic show. This was an epic show. We're going to close it down. We could go on for hours. We may have to come up later tonight. Who knows? I've got a lot of work to do behind the scenes. I've gotten a lot of stuff here since this show started. We made a decision. We knew we had to go on live today. We knew we had to open up Act 1 today of the ACC drama. We still have the Pac-12 drama going on. We still have Arizona. I think they have table 14 reserved. I think they're ready to get into the restaurant, sit down at a truck stop diner and sign the papers to join the Big 12. We've got college football starting 4 Saturdays from now. Things are so heavy with drama. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for the PATC community. Daniel Montecastle with a huge donation once again to our show. Thank you so very, very much, Daniel. Mr. Hoosier. He's Mr. Hoosier in the PATC community, and all the other donations that have come through today. I see we got a lot of Florida State people in the chat room. Please subscribe to this channel. We're going to be covering this story like you would not believe. We poke and we prod. If you've seen us do it before, well, we're going to do it again here at Peek Around the Corner. So everybody, buckle up. Brace for impact. ACC Drama, Act 1. It's only just begun. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. Smash that like button. Share the video with your family and friends. Act 1 has begun. ACC Drama, Florida State. Are they officially withdrawing from the conference, from the ACC, before the August 15 deadline created in the ACC bylaws? We shall see. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.